welcome to Mr. Giant Reacts and Ting and Ting and Ting. I'm Mr. Giant, back with another video, back with another reaction. And we are going to look at this video here, the country that gave humanity everything from electricity to vampires. We're talking about Serbia. Let's check it out. Let's see what all the simple little things that Serbia gave the world. Let's check the vibe out.
In 2018, millions of clocks across Europe started lying. Microwaves, ovens, electronic alarm clocks. Everything started running 6 minutes late. People were late for work, missed trains, argued with tech support. The cause wasn't found immediately, and when it was, they couldn't believe it. Serbia was to blame, a small Balkan country about which the average European knows 3 facts: the breakup of Yugoslavia, Nikola Tesla, and Rakija with Pleskavica. Due to an energy dispute, the grid frequency in the pan-European power grid dropped, and all devices synchronized to the grid began to lag. One country, a 6-minute lag across the whole of Europe. What's interesting here is that for Serbia, this is perfectly normal. This country influences world history in ways a country with a population of less than 7 million shouldn't. And today, we'll figure out why.
So let's check it out. That was kind of interesting right there.
June 28, 1914, the city of Sarajevo, a 19-year-old Bosnian Serb named Gavrilo Princip stands on a street corner.
Princip, I heard about that.
He has a gun in his pocket, an idea in his head, and his stomach is probably empty because he's a tuberculosis sufferer with chronic malnutrition. An open car passes by, carrying the heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Princip makes 2 shots. The first bullet hits the Archduke, the second hits his wife Sophie. Both die within an hour. A month later, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. Within a week, Russia, Germany, France, and Great Britain are drawn into the conflict. Within a couple more months, half the world. Total, 4 years of carnage, 20 million dead, collapsed empires, and a redrawn map of Europe. And it all started with 2 shots from a Serbian teenager on a corner of a Balkan street. But Serbia paid the highest price of all. The country lost 28% of its population, more than any other state in World War I. Every 4th Serb did not live to see peace. France lost about 4%. Germany also about 4%, Russia 2%. But Serbia lost more than a quarter of its population.
Wow. Now, here's a question I have to ask about that. All right, let's look at words here. Started or the catalyst for it? Because there had to be political, tension before he did that. So what really started is what was happening before. He was the catalyst first, which means that that specific incident at that specific time make the outrage or the discontent boil over. So quite frankly, there was some political stuff going on, international politics going on with the tensions and stuff, and then that particular thing weak countries up to the vibe, so started or catapulted more into that. It was probably heading in that direction anyway. Comment down below. Tell me if that's a fair assessment there, because, I think sometimes to just look at one incident as a thing that start a conflict and not taking into consideration everything that happened before sort of makes it hard to stop it from happening again, because that one actual physical act is what they say caused it, you know what I mean? When there was all kinds of stuff going on before it, things that could have been negotiated, you know what I'm saying? But let's keep going here. But I know about that one already.
But let's rewind a couple of thousand years, because the history of Serbia is not the history of a small Balkan country, as it might seem at first glance. It's the history of a territory where civilizations were born. Let's start with Vinča, but not the one by Leonardo, the other one. Vinča is an archaeological site on the banks of the Danube, 20 kilometers from Belgrade.
Okay.
Here, at the beginning of the 20th century, a settlement dating back 6 to 8,000 years was excavated, and surprisingly, symbols were found, many symbols. The so-called Vinca symbols, signs inscribed on pottery, figurines, and tablets. The 6th-5th millennium BC. Some scholars consider them one of the first systems of proto-writing in Europe, even older than Sumerian cuneiform. Debates about this continue. Some say it's full-fledged writing, others that it's just ritual symbols. But the important thing here is that, on the territory of present-day Serbia, people were creating complex sign systems earlier than in Mesopotamia. That's at least something to think about.
Ritual
Next is
symbols,
Rome. On
writings
the
is
territory of
communication.
modern Serbia stood one of the 4 official capitals of the Roman Empire, Sirmium. Now it's the city of Sremska Mitrovica, a quiet provincial town with a population of less than 40,000. But in the 3rd-4th centuries AD, it was one of the centers of the world,
Oh,
namely the
wow.
residence of emperors,
Wow.
a legion headquarters, and a crossroads of roads leading from Rome to Constantinople. It's also incredible that Serbia was never an empire, but gave the world as many as 18 Roman emperors. 10 of them were born in Sirmium itself, including one who also comes from the territory of present-day Serbia and whose name everyone knows. That is Constantine the Great, the first Roman emperor to legalize Christianity with the Edict of Milan in 313. He was born in Niš, the 4th largest city in modern Serbia. The man who changed the religious map of the planet and founded a city named after him, Constantinople, present-day Istanbul, turned out to be from Niš. There
See, you talk about Roman empires and stuff like that. We learn about them in school. This is never told. You know what I mean? You never hear about this kind of vibe and thing. I guess if you're in school, if you do, they don't do deep dives to know these things, but I didn't know that. When I think of the Roman Empire, I just think of Rome, period. You know what I mean? I didn't think of all the conquered territories where these guys and leaders moved back then. It's not like they stay in their country. You know what I mean? And they're just there, and then they go to diplomatic stuff and all that, and then they come back home and all of that. Wherever they conquer, sometimes they live there, especially if the places looks viable for them to live.
is another unique person from Serbia, without whom you wouldn't be watching this video. In fact, no video at all. You wouldn't charge your phone, and possibly wouldn't even have lights at home. Nikola Tesla.
Yep, Mr. Tesla.
A Serb, born in 1856 in the village of Smiljan on the territory of modern Croatia. Croats consider Tesla theirs because he was born on their land. Serbs consider him theirs because he was a Serb by nationality from the family of a Serbian Orthodox priest. Tesla, however, called himself a Serb and also loved Croatia. In his lifetime, Tesla obtained over 270 patents. He created the alternating current system on which all modern electrical power engineering operates. He invented the eponymous coil, which is still used in radio engineering. He worked on wireless energy transmission, something the whole world is only starting to master now, 130 years later. Even the unit of magnetic induction is named Tesla in his honor. Elon Musk named his company after him, and Tesla's ashes are kept not in an urn or coffin, but in a golden sphere at the Tesla Museum in Belgrade. You can come and see it. Belgrade, by the way, became the first city in the Balkans to have electric street lighting.
Oh.
That was in 1893. Earlier than Athens, Bucharest, and Sofia. But Tesla is far from the only Serb who changed the world of technology. Mihajlo Pupin.
See, like, oh man, I wish they would break it down so that you could learn certain things in history, so you could know where certain things are coming from. And it's like, all the things we take for granted and we think it comes from a certain place and stuff like that, it actually comes from somewhere else. It would be nice to know where things originate. Hey, hence this video. You understand what I mean? Me, I'm a glutton for learning. You know what I mean? You get to a certain age and thing, and it just, well, I've always been a glutton for learning stuff, though. So
The man who made long-distance phone calls possible.
what?
His invention, the Pupin coil, made it possible to transmit a voice signal over 1,000 kilometers. Before him, the telephone was a city toy. You could only call your neighbor, at best another district. Pupin turned the telephone into an instrument that connected the whole world.
I may have heard about this guy before.
Pupin was one of the founders of
Pupin?
NACA,
Okay.
the organization that later became NASA.
What?
And speaking of NASA, 13 Serbs worked on the Apollo project,
I did a
thanks
video
to which
about
man
that.
first stepped on the moon. And another Serb, Milutin Milankovic, was included by NASA in the list of the 15 greatest minds of all time. Milankovic was an astrophysicist and mathematician who developed the theory of Earth's climate cycles. The so-called Milankovic cycles explain why ice ages occur and recede on Earth. Every climatologist in the world knows this name. There are a few more interesting inventions. In 1963, the Belgrade hand, one of the world's first 5-fingered robotic hands, was created at the University of Belgrade.
What?
The hand featured a grasping technology comparable to modern ones, and its development laid the foundation for modern prosthetics.
What?
In 1983, journalist and inventor Voja Antonic published the home computer Galaxija, one of the first in the world that people assembled at home from magazine instructions. A soldering iron, parts from a list,
Wow.
a couple of evenings, and you have your own personal computer.
Didn't know
March
that
27th, 1999. The NATO bombing of Yugoslavia is underway. An American stealth fighter, F-117 Nighthawk, is flying over Serbia. An aircraft that cannot be detected by radar, technology worth hundreds of millions of dollars. At that time, the main symbol of American technological superiority in the air, and a machine that no air defense system in the world could spot. But the Serbs didn't know this, and clearly saw the plane. Colonel Zoltan Dani, commander of an anti-aircraft missile division, used a tactic that sounds like a joke. He kept turning his old Soviet radar from the 60s on and off for exactly 17 seconds and changing position. This way, the Americans didn't have time to detect him, but he managed to detect their invisible plane. A Soviet missile developed over 30 years earlier hit an aircraft built with future technologies. The F-117 crashed into a Serbian field. This was the first and only case in history of a stealth aircraft being shot down. The wreckage stands today in the Aviation Museum in Belgrade, one of the most popular exhibits, by the way. And next to it, an ironic sign, "Sorry, we didn't know it was invisible." The phrase became a national meme, but the story doesn't end there. There are persistent rumors that some of the wreckage was bought by Russia and China and used for coating technologies in developing their 5th-generation fighters, the Su-57 and J-20. So it turned out that one shot-down plane over Serbia potentially changed the balance of global military aviation. Interesting features of the Serbian language. In 1818, Vuk Karadžić reformed the Serbian alphabet, based on a principle that linguists worldwide call ideal. Write as you speak, read as it's written. One letter, one sound, no exceptions. It is spelled Manchester, but pronounced Liverpool, as they joke about English. Every word sounds exactly as it's written. 30 letters, 30 sounds, everything is simple and clear. Moreover, Serbian is the only European language that officially uses 2 alphabets, Cyrillic and Latin. Both are fully valid and official. A Serb can write the same word in 2 ways, and neither will be wrong. A
Cool.
sign at the station in Cyrillic, a restaurant menu in Latin, and a newspaper can be a mix. And here's another detail that few people know. The Serbian language was used as an official language in the Ottoman Empire alongside Turkish. The empire conquered Serbia, but the Serbian language was so ingrained in the administration of the Balkan
They
provinces
have no
that it had to
choice.
be kept.
Yeah, they had no choice. That's a
Okay,
strong
stop
language
for a
there.
moment. Here we are discussing emperors, scientists, and wars. But Serbia has given the world something else. You definitely know this word, vampire. It's the only Serbian word that has literally entered all languages of the world. However, there's a grim historical background to this. The first documented case of vampirism in European history occurred precisely in Serbia. 1725, the village of Kisliovo, a peasant named Petar Blagojevic dies, and it would seem there's nothing unusual about that. But after 2 months, neighbors in the village, one by one, start getting sick and dying. Before dying, each of them says the same thing. Petar came to them at night. The locals decide to open the grave and see that the body is intact. Nails and hair have grown, and there is fresh blood on the lips. Without much thought, they drive a stake through his heart and burn him, just to be sure. The entire Austrian press writes about this outrageous event. Even the investigation reports have been preserved. It was this story that gave Europe the very concept of the vampire, long before Bram Stoker and his horror novel Dracula. But that wasn't the end of it. Apparently,
Not.
vampires from Serbia never left. In the village of Zarozje, locals still believe that a real vampire named Sava Savanovic lived in an old mill by the river. And they still believe it, because in 2012 the mill collapsed, and the municipality issued an official warning to the population.
Dear citizens, the vampire is on the loose.
Be careful. This is a real official document, and here it's completely normal. Serbs also have their own first European horror film about vampires, Leptirica,
Oh,
based on real Serbian legends.
okay. I'm gonna have to
No
check this
Hollywood
out.
gloss, just pure raw Balkan horror. Watch it, and you won't want to sleep afterwards.
I am going to have to check that out. And it's funny that, well, it's ironic that every country have its own iteration of this vampire. So there's a difference between vampire and Dracula. You know what I'm saying? Bram Stoker made Dracula. This was way before him. You know what I mean? So what this guy did, he took like Serbian mythology and Romanian history and came up with Dracula because he gave it a Romanian name, but with a Serbian sort of a folklore type vibe. On the island, we have our own vampire type person. He's called a loup-garou or legarou, like we say. But the word is French. So, it's okay. It's a mixture of African and French mythology put together. And it said that at night, he jumps out the window, turns into a ball of fire, enters your house, but he doesn't kill you. He just sucks the blood out of you. So if you wake up in the morning and you have a big purple mark, it ain't red because black people don't get red hickeys. Especially not on the island where you bake in the sun. It's purple. You know what I mean? If you're light skinned, yeah, it's going to be red. But if you're dark, as I get real dark when I'm on the island because I'm baking in the sun, it's going to be purple. And there's a ligaroo. The only way to kill the ligaroo is if you find, because before it jumps out the window and turns into a ball of fire, it takes its skin off and it hangs it. You have to find the skin and sprinkle pepper or salt, one or the other, in there. And when he puts the skin on, he melts. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you, man, that used to scare me. And they talk about the old man by the mill as the Lugaroo. We had a dude back home that was like that. We called him Boom, the Ligaroo. Old guy standing at the top of the hill, had a stick in his hand, and he'd like stare down kids that walk by. I was scared of that man. This was when I was a kid. Boom, the Ligaroo. You know what I'm saying? So we're not that different when it comes to like folklore and stuff like that. If you go to every culture, they have an iteration of this. You understand what I'm saying? But that's kind of interesting that the vampire actually came from Serbia. The concept of it. That is crazy.
But if the vampire story is blood-curdling horror, then the story of the Serbian economy in the 90s is existential horror. In January 1994, inflation in Serbia reached 313 million% per month. This is the third largest hyperinflation in human history, where prices change several times a day. In the morning, a loaf of bread costs one amount, by noon, twice as much, and by evening, it's pointless to count. A banknote with a face value of 500 billion dinars was printed, and every
Wow.
Serb formally became a billionaire. However, just 2 weeks after its release, it turned into a useless piece of paper. If you managed to spend it instantly, it was enough for exactly 3 liters of milk, and that's only if the store was nearby. Stores, by the way, stopped writing prices in dinars altogether. Products were assigned points tied to the German mark. Also, great people to print on banknotes were running out. So, on the 50 million dinar banknote, they printed the portrait of an unknown girl. Rumor has it that the
Wow.
central bank decided no one would notice anyway, because with such inflation, the banknote wouldn't last a day. Now let's look at something unusual.
Wow. Wow. That's
On the
crazy.
Danube, on the border of Serbia and Romania, a 40-meter portrait is carved into the rock. This is the face of Disibalus, the last king of Dacia, an ancient state that once existed on the territory of present-day Romania. It is the largest rock sculpture in Europe. If you're sailing down the Danube in a boat and don't know beforehand, you might say the least be stunned. Also in Serbia, there are things that scientists have not yet explained, or they did explain, but no one believes them. Mount Tranji. It is about 500,000 years old. From some angles, it looks very much like a pyramid, as if it were man-made, although geologists insist it is a natural formation. A whole cult has formed around Rotanj. Popular versions of what it really is include disguised alien ships, an ancient pyramid built by an unknown civilization, and an energy portal. Tourists genuinely claim to feel vibrations and energy flows near the mountain. On another mountain, Pavlin, huge and mysterious
And I did a video here recently about Bosnia. They said there's those 3 pyramids in Bosnia, and there's a massive debate going on of whether it's man-made or whether it's a natural. Of course, you have the scientists saying it's natural, and then you have other people arguing about that. So it seems like that region has that propensity to have those pyramid-like structures or natural structures or man-made structures. We don't know.
stone balls are scattered. Geologists say it's volcanic activity, a natural process of concretion formation. But locals say it's aliens.
Ah,
It's just not entirely clear why aliens would need these stone balls. Are they sitting there inside these balls or what? And the Uvac River is one of the most photogenic rivers in the world.
that's a
Its
crazy
meanders,
river.
the loops
Wow.
the river describes among the mountains, are especially beautiful,
Yeah.
a place not yet trampled by mass tourism.
Oh, no, it will be.
Serbs know how to amaze with their records. Slaviša Pajkic, nicknamed Biba Struja, a famous human battery, managed to pass 20,000 volts through himself. By the way, the electric chair operates at only 2,000 volts. He fried sausages by passing electricity through himself, holding forks with bare hands, and lit light bulbs by putting them in his mouth. He set fabric on fire by touching it with his body. He got 2 Guinness records. When scientists finally
Okay, I'm gonna have to
examined
look
him,
this guy
they
up.
found he
This
had a
is
genetic
unusual.
defect. He lacked sweat and salivary glands, and his skin had 2 fewer layers than an ordinary person's.
Wow.
These features allowed him to conduct electricity without creating resistance.
My
A
man was an
unique
alien.
mutation. Milutin Veljkovic descended into the Samar cave in 69 and spent 464 consecutive days there. That's over a year underground, without sunlight. He had a radio, canned food, and a gas stove. When he came out, he set a Guinness record and wrote the book Under a Stone Sky. Why he did this is hard to say, but the record stood for decades. Also, the longest chess game in history was played here, in
What?
Belgrade in 1989. Ivan Nikolic, Goran Arsovic. The game lasted 20 hours and 15 minutes, with 269 moves made. The funny thing is that the game ended in a draw. Under modern rules, this record can no longer be broken, as only 50 moves are allowed. There are also completely pointless but impressive records. Dalibor Jablanovic broke 24 Guinness records in 1 year in 9 categories. The most outstanding, 31 spoons on his face simultaneously, and the fastest unwinding of a toilet paper roll with one hand in 9.8 seconds. Irvin Katona is one of the strongest people on the planet. 3 Guinness records. He held a car weighing almost a ton with his bare hands, carried a 300 kilograms barbell 20 meters
He looks like
in
he's
8
tall
seconds,
too.
and flipped a huge tire 20 meters in 41 seconds. Serbian hairdresser Nikola Kulezic created the longest hair extensions in the world, 820 meters. Not centimeters, but meters, in case you didn't catch that. 820 meters of artificial hair attached to one head. Why? A question that apparently no one knows the answer to.
He's in the Guinness
When a
Book of
Serb
World
becomes
Records.
the best at something, they become the best in the world. For example, Novak Djokovic. He has 24 Grand Slam titles, more than any other man in tennis history. For Serbs, he is a true national hero on the level of Tesla. A man from Belgrade who trained in an empty swimming pool during the NATO bombings and then became the greatest tennis player of all time. 3 Serbs have won the Pulitzer Prize: Walter Bogdanic, Charles Simic, and Mihajlo Pupin. Ivo Andrić became the only Serbian Nobel laureate in literature. And the Serbian woman Mileva Marić, Albert Einstein's first wife, made significant contributions to his early works, including the theory of relativity. The
Just
debate
did a
about
video
this
on that. I'm
continues,
gonna link it in
but
the
the
bottom. On
correspondence
her,
between
actually.
Einstein and Merrick, where he writes, "Our theory and our work," is a document hard to ignore. And now, cheese. I didn't know where to put it.
I just did a video on her. I will link it in the cards at the end of the video. Go check it out. That's a very, very interesting story there. I know the Serbs already know about it. So if you're not a Serbian, go check it out. It's very interesting. They showed the letters and stuff that that Einstein wrote to her and stuff. And I do believe those letters preserved somewhere. It might be in Belgrade at a museum. But it's really
So
interesting.
let it
Check
be
out.
here. Pure cheese costs up to 1,000 euros per kilogram. It is made from a mixture of donkey and goat milk. A donkey gives about 2 kilograms of milk per day. To make 1 kilogram of cheese, you need 25 kilograms of this milk.
I need to taste this junky
It
cheese,
takes a
man.
very long time, hence the high price. They say it's delicious. Anyone who has tried it, write in the comments.
I'll have to try
Tourists
that.
coming to Serbia ask the same question. Do these people even work? Cafes, restaurants and bars are packed at any time of day. Serbs sit,
They know how
drink
to
coffee
chill.
and discuss something.
That's
It gives
like
the
the
impression of
Caribbean.
an eternal holiday. Actually, Serbs just know how to live unhurriedly. There's even a
Yep.
special word for it, Polako.
Polacco?
And in the villages, it's a different story. Neighborly relations are so close that a neighbor can come into your house, open the fridge, take whatever they want, and eat. And this is considered the norm and a sign of closeness. Doors are not locked, food is shared, children run from house to house. This is a reality that still exists in Serbian villages. Serbian women, by the way, are considered some of the most beautiful in the world, a combination of Slavic and Mediterranean genes. Foreigners joke that walking through Belgrade is like a fashion show, but that, of course, is all subjective. That's Serbia for you. If you liked the video, hit like.
That was really interesting. The laid back atmosphere where everybody's just chilling and talking and stuff. That's like the islands, man. You know what I mean? They said if you go to, as he said there, Serbia, everybody's sitting at cafes talking. He's talking about the big cities too. You know what I mean? Cafes talking and just chilling out. You know, there's always a crowd. On the island, same thing, you know. He said like on the outskirts of the villages, one could walk in and out. Well, into people's house, you can't do that on the island. You know, you have to knock before you come in. But you know, everybody's just chilling. You know what I mean? People could come over and you know just go in your fridge and take. You know what I mean? You come to my house on the island. You don't just go sit there and wait for somebody to serve you. You know what I mean? It's like, man, help yourself. You know what I'm saying? You go to their house, you know, and neighbor will cook some food and bring some food over. You know, if in the village and thing, you understand? So yeah, it's a lot like the Caribbean, and everybody's laid back, you know, and it looks like nobody's have anywhere to go. Yeah, they do, but you know, I had a friend who went to a Caribbean island one time, and it wasn't Grenada, but she said that it started to rain, and everybody just walk up on people's steps. You know, because people walk to work there a lot. You know what I mean? There's no, if you live on a small island, there's not a massive commute. If you, especially if you live in the city, you like I used to live on the same block at the high school I went to, so I just walk a few steps and I'm in school. So you know, but you know, sometimes there's a longer commute. When I went to middle school, I had a little bit of walking to do. And if you walk into school first thing in the morning and it started to rain, you walk up on the neighbor's veranda or porch and wait the rain out. And she said that you know people were just standing on people's porch waiting for the rain to go out and stuff like that. And she's like, "Aren't you worried about being late? Because you know in bigger countries you have to get there on time. You know what I mean? Or you're in trouble. You know what I'm saying? And all of that." Just relax, you know what I mean? Life is life. Let life, you know. So that's always similar in the Caribbean. Of course, you have the vampire thing, the Liggeroo thing, you know what I'm saying? But man, this was somebody actually sent me this video and suggested that I watch it. Thank you very much for doing that. You understand what I mean? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. I'm going to tell you, life is about learning stuff. If we learn stuff about each other, we may just understand each other more. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm so excited to watch these videos, and hopefully a lot of people watch it also, so we learn about that region. And I'll tell you a little bit about where I'm from too. And also a little bit of where I am, you understand? So we learn about each other. That's kind of cool. That's life. Let's love each other. Let's try to keep some peace in this world and take care of each other, okay?